on Zoom. I'm not sure why. Tolly. Anyway, Tolly, we need some. Tolly's on Zoom.
Sure, where's the Coke?
Good luck. A second. There's no symptoms. We need somebody to upload some pictures.
Moishi, come on.
Good luck, Yehuda. Ben, can you do it? Tofko Flamed Gimel first. Next 6 pictures. Tofko Flamed Gimel. Next 6 pictures.
Do we still not know what we're doing for a sim?
No, still don't know.
I think we should just do a fat sim. Are we doing the tour on Manchester?
No, I spoke. He doesn't want.
Why not? Who's he?
Surfer said he doesn't want.
Have I Surfer doesn't want? Why not?
He said this. Have you got all 6 up?
Sorry, one second. What's the problem?
It's illegal, and the point
You mean
is.
because of COVID?
Yeah, because of COVID. Yeah.
Okay, well, an educational face mask situation.
Where you want to go to?
Also, it's winter, it's cold and I don't know. It's a shame. We should
Have a live talk with the team. We should go on the tour of the Manchester Eiruvin.
Good luck. Let's get going.
So get into a bus or something.
On Friday, by mistake, I ended up stopping in the middle of the topic, and therefore we're going to have to start Pei Testament base 6 lines from the bottom in the middle of the topic. We're discussing a situation when there's a rooftops of a few buildings, and what happens is only one person has shown a desire to climb onto the roof. Only one person has access to the roof. So the halacha is that the halacha is that only that person is allowed to climb on the roof, and other people do not forbid. The reason being because obviously he's the only one that wants to go on the roof. So the Gemara says Kahah, Pei Testament base, bottom of the page, 6 lines to the bottom. Kahad Omar Nachman. Also Sulam Kavale Gago. If a person makes a ladder to his roof and nobody else has a ladder to the roof, let's say for argument's sake, that here the top of this floor would be owned by 5 different families, and only one of us makes a ladder to get to the roof, then that person is the only one who's allowed to the roof, and everybody else is not. Omar Abaya. If it's possible, thanks to Ben for putting up the picture, to look at picture Tov Kuf Lamed Gimel, and then at Tov Kuf Lamed Dalet. In Tov Kuf Lamed Gimel, you've got a number of houses, and they all got roofs on top. And what happens is one person made for himself a loft, or not a loft, a penthouse. Oh, penthouse, nice word. And from the penthouse, he's made access to the rooftop. What would you say? Is that
he's allowed?
Oh, only he's allowed. Why is only he allowed? He's the only one with access. It's like the ladder. Very good, very simple. What about Tofku Flamed Dalet? Now here's a bit of a tricky one. Tofku Flamed Dalet. Who would you say is allowed?
I don't understand.
He's got access only facing forward to the front garden.
Okay, there's still space for him to get
Yes.
out and walk on.
Even
so, is it not a thing whether or not the roof?
No. Even so, yeah. But this case, only he has access to the roof. So it's only.
Roof sits.
Yes.
There's no difference which way it's oriented.
So the answer is in Tov Flamed Dalet, by making the access point to the front of the house, what he's signifying is
that he only wants forward.
He only wants to overlook his front garden. He's not interested in accessing the roof. It's just a vantage point. Oh, that's a good word. To watch over his garden.
Depending on how big the entranceway is to come out.
Again, in Tov, let's get very brief. In Tov Lamed Gimel, he's showing I want access to the roof. In Tov Lamed Dalet, he's showing he just wants to be able to access, to be able to watch over his garden. So if in Tov Lamed Gimel only he's allowed, in Tov Lamed Dalet, nobody's allowed on the rooftop.
Well, he's allowed on his bit, no?
No, nobody's allowed any because they all open up to each other and none of them have specified which one, so nobody's allowed on it. Let's see the Gemara inside. Omar Abaya. It's 4 lines from the bottom. Bon Ali Agave Beise, he builds a penthouse, a loft in his house, but also the Fidel Dak, he makes a small entranceway, 4 tvachim wide. Huta v'chol hagagin kulon is allowed to go on all the rooftops. So sometimes the entranceway will make it forbidden, not permitted. He does it facing the garden of his house. The top of Tzadik Amud Aleph. He's not interested in the roof. He's only interested to be able to watch over his garden.
Why did it specify 4 tefachim? Why?
No, because if it's not an entrance of 4 tefachim, it's not considered an
That's
entrance.
the minimum size.
That's the minimum size of an entrance. So now, right, so got a shadow who can carry. So far, this whole parak is actually discussing unusual carrying places. Till now, we always talked about houses and chatzeros. Now we're discussing rooftops and other places. Now, if you remember, we said this quite quickly on Friday, a machlekes Rav and Shmuel. What's the machlekes Rav and Shmuel? Does anybody remember? What's the machlekes Rav and Shmuel?
Or if the roofs are higher or lower.
No,
Why
not
did the
100%.
board know that we- the house-
Yeah, you have to explain it a bit better. What's the machlekes Rav and Shmuel? When you've got a few houses, and from the top, from the rooftop, maybe you could do mind then putting up the picture of Tov Kuf Lama. It is already Tov Kuf Chof Zayin. Tov Kuf Chof Zayin. I'd like you to put it back up again because it's kedai to see. Tov Kuf Chof Zayin. You've got a few houses with a roof, but you cannot see the roof. That means you cannot see the division between the houses. According to Rav, he says that we don't say Godask Mechitza. It means, therefore, it's considered as if there's no walls, and since there's no walls, you're not allowed to carry, even within your own roof. That means, let's say, for example, this is my house. This room is my house. According to Rav, I would not be allowed to carry on my own roof. Why? Because on the rooftop, you can't see a difference between this house and the next house. Shmuel says you're allowed to carry on the rooftop. Does anybody remember what's the svor of Shmuel? Why are you allowed to carry on the rooftop? Good asik. But what's the chiddush for Shmuel of good asik over here? It's a good asik when you can't see the wall. Because this wall over here goes all the way to the roof, but past the roof you can't see anything. So Shmuel says we say good asik. And now we're continuing with more shilas about this. Boy, Yomi Ba'achama. Shtei Amos Begag. Oh, if you don't mind, let's look at the pictures. We've got 2 pictures to look at. That's Tov Kuf Lamed Hey and Tov Kuf Lamed Vov. That's the next 2. So the next 2 stories we're going to discuss. Somebody wants to walk 2 amos on his roof, 2 amos on a pillar next to his roof, on a big monument next to his roof. What would you say? Mutter asa? So let's work it out. What's the status of a roof? Kaf. Right, less than 4 amos should be mutter. But his roof is a kaf. The amud is a shusayachit. Can you carry from a kaf to shusayachit? No, it's abundance asa. Now, what about Tov Kuf Lamed Vov? The rooftop is a karfuf, and so is the achsadra. Now here, Rashi adds a small point, which I'm happy in the picture. If you look in the picture, you'll notice it in the picture with me. If you look on the achsadra is like a kind of porch, or a kind of, what's a good word for it? Canopy. Now, if you look very carefully on the pictures, the canopy roof straight or slanting? Why? No, it doesn't.
Look
It's
at the gap.
definitely
Look at the
It's
gap.
optical illusion.
Oh, it has more.
Is it not? It's definitely slanting.
Does anybody know why they made the picture slanting? Anybody who does deserves an extra cup of Coke.
Because if it's the same level, it's definitely okay. If it's slanting, you're not.
You can't
You
live
have
on
to
a-
explain
can't
why.
live- You can't like normally live on stuff.
No, okay, no. Get this.
It's not my travel too much.
Critical Yod V'Seisem. Okay, the more we talk about it later. I tell you what, I saw actually Pascal Halacha. I tell you, if you picture it, it's good to picture it. Sometimes you go into people's houses, you've got a front door, and they've got rails on each side of the front door. Now, are you allowed to carry on that front door step before you get into the front door?
No.
No. Why not? Because the rail on each side is a wall. The door, the actual front door, is, I should really have brought in the picture. It's not in this picture. It's different. It's in a halacha sefer. Then the halacha is you can't carry. Now, if they have a shelter on top, which a lot of people do, then you are allowed to carry. What's the svor? Because you've got 2 walls plus the thing, and Pitik means that when you've got a roof, the rooftop ends at the and it comes from a chita. We'll come to it more. What? We've discussed it before. Okay, right. So let's see the more inside. The more says like this. We're up to the top line on Daf Tzadi Amud Aleph. Boy, Yomi Ba'achama. Shtei amos begag. 2 amos on the rooftop. 2 amos per amud. 2 amos on the pillar. Mal. Oilatzkai. Omar Rabba. My kami boyle, kamis shesayachid kami boyle. Are you allowed to carry from a kamis shesayachid? That means from the rooftop, which is a kamis to shesayachid. It says more, but wami ba'acham agav chufei lo einbo. Because he was so quick, he didn't explain himself, and he meant to ask a completely different question. This is what he wanted to ask. Base Amos begag, base Amos ba'achsadra mount. 2 amos on the rooftop, 2 amos on the achsadra. Nobody lives not on the rooftop, and not on top of a canopy. So therefore, Chodu Shusei has got the same status. He's allowed to carry from one to the other. Since Chazal forbade you to carry from one roof to another, maybe they forbade you also from a rooftop to the top of Achsadra. It's actually the next picture which Ben put up, where what happens is, if you've got 2 amos on the roof and 2 amos on the ruin, what's the din? Is that not exactly the same question which Roman Bar himself asked? Do you try to come and fight with me from another person? You're trying to stand, cause problems. That's not the same thing. Achsadra you can't live in. Says what's the shayla? If you can live in it, it's the same as a rooftop. It should be like from one rooftop to the next. One says it means like this. Then you can live in it, and therefore it's considered the proper rooftop. And the moment nobody lives there, take. That means you've got 3 levels. You've got a pillar, which is considered Rishus HaYochid. You've got an achsadra, which is a canopy, which is considered a karmelis. And you've got a chuba. A chuba is a house where nobody lives in it, but in theory, people could live in it. So really, the word ruin is not really the correct English word. Chuba should be more deserted. Deserted, that's what they call it. Deserted house. A deserted house. Do you say, look, it's a deserted house. Since it's a deserted house, nobody lives there. So if I'm not carrying from my rooftop to your rooftop, I'm carrying from my rooftop to nothing, so that should be mutter. Or do you say, no, there's potential for somebody to live there, so one rooftop to the next is forbidden. Okay. The Gemara says take. Right. So now we discussed before Rav and Shmuel carrying from one rooftop to the next, where you cannot tell the difference between one rooftop to the next. Now in the Mishnah, which we had on Friday, and again, the Mishnah did quite quickly, so we want to let's get it very clear, the halachas of the rooftop. There are 3 main shittas regarding roofs. We hold the most kula. We'll go from the most kula to the most mach. Shittas of Shimon. What's the shittas of Shimon? Anybody tell me? What's the shittas of Shimon? Right. I'm allowed to carry from any rooftop to any rooftop, from any rooftop to any chotzer, and from any chotzer to any enclosure, even if they do not belong to me. So I'm allowed to carry from my rooftop to Chaim's rooftop, from his rooftop to Ben's chotzer, from Ben's chotzer to Moshe's karfot, etc., etc. And in theory, you could carry right through the entire town. Not shittas of Shimon. What's the svov of Shimon? The svov of Shimon is that something like a house, that's mine. And since it's mine, if I carry from my house to your house, Chazal forbade it. But from my rooftop, which I hardly ever use, to your rooftop, which I hardly ever use, or from my rooftop to your chotzer, Chazal never forbade it. That's the shittas of Shimon that is the most kula. Now we'll go to the other extreme, maybe. Shittas Chachamim. What do they hold? They hold the most machmir. They say like this. Not only am I not allowed to carry from my house to your house, I'm not allowed to carry from my roof to your roof. Why? Because this is my roof, that's your roof, so it's forbidden. According to the Chachamim, would I be allowed to carry from my roof to your enclosure? What would you say? Kavachayim or not? If I'm not allowed to carry from my roof to your roof, of course I'm not allowed to carry from my roof to your enclosure. Because at the end of the day, then we have 2 problems. One is it's separate owners, and second of all, it's a separate kind of rishus. One's a roof and one's an enclosure. That's the Chachamim. They forbid it completely. So just like I need an Eiruvin for my chotzer, for my house, I need an Eiruvin for my roof to your roof. Shittas Rameh is a little bit in between. What's Shittas Rameh? Anybody remember what Shittas Rameh?
If they're all the same level, you can. If they're not,
Very good. And now with Shai's conclusion, we're not talking about 10 tvachim difference. Again, so from my roof to your roof, I'm allowed to. From my roof to your chotzer, I'm not allowed to. Because the mayor holds, all rooftops have the same halacha, all chatzeros have the same halacha, and all kafifos have the same halacha. So now the Gemara says like this, a shaila. Gagin hashovim l'rameh. If you've got a rooftop which is equal in height according to Rameh, so what's the halacha? I'm allowed to carry from one to the next.
Did Mach-
No, according to Rameir, it's okay. The gag yechidi lo abon, or a single roof according to the Chachamim. Rav Omar mutar l'tartim b'kulei. I'm allowed to carry everywhere I want in the rooftop. V'shmuel Omar ein l'tartim b'yela ba'arba. You're only allowed to carry within 4 hours.
Is that even on your own?
That's in your own rooftop. Now this is a bit of a complicated cheshbon, but it's good to keep track. Maybe we can look at the pictures and help us a little bit. In picture Tov Kuf Chav Gimel, which we showed up already, Tov Kuf Chav Zayin, we had the Machlokas Rav and Shmuel. Rav said, you're not allowed to carry more than 4 amas. And here on your own rooftop, which is, no, it's not in this, it's not, it never has a picture of it. According to Rav, you're allowed to carry everywhere. Shmuel, when you have a number of rooftops, said you're allowed to carry anywhere in the rooftop. And here he says you're allowed to carry 4 amas. That means Rav and Shmuel in one place, Rav is Meikol and Shmuel is Machmi, and in another place, Rav is Machmi, Shmuel is Meikol. And the Lord's going to ask, you're both contradicting yourself. And we have to get very clear what's the difference. In one case, we talk about a number of houses with a shared roof. And in one case, let's stick to one case, is we're talking about one very big roof. In a case of a shared rooftop, Rav is Machmi and Shmuel is Meikol. In the case of one very big rooftop, Rav is Meikol and Shmuel is Machmi. Yeah, one big roof belongs to one person. Shmuel is Machmi and Rav is Meikol when it comes to one very big rooftop. The Gemara asks the question, why do they contradict each other? The Gemara says like this. Actually, why do you understand Rav?
Because Rav holds that it depends on. Well, I understand. So it's a shared rooftop, so there's 4 different people that have access to it. But a single one. But Shmuel can't understand. He allows it when there are multiple people.
What you just said is a very, very good point. In fact, so good that many of the Rishonim are bothered about you. Because the Gemara asks a kasha, both Rav against Rav and Shmuel against Shmuel. And the Rishonim will say we don't understand. Rav against Rav, that's not a problem. It's Shmuel against Shmuel is the problem. So much so, the Gemara actually says your answer. But the Rishonim are bothered. What was the Gemara even thinking to ask a kasha Rav against Rav? But let's do it inside. Again, the Gemara says, Rav Omar, mutar l'tartim b'kulei, allowed to carry everywhere. Kasha to Rav, it's a kasha of Rav. Answers the Gemara, Hossa b'minka mechitzosa, och minka mechitzosa. Which actually is slightly different to you. Explain it like this. When there's a shared rooftop of a few people, I don't know when I'm carrying from my house to over your house. So for Rav says it's also. Now, if I own a very, very big property and I've got one very flat roof, what's the problem? That I might go past my house? No, past my house, there's a wall. And the good asik on the outside works. So for that wall on the outside goes all the way to the heavens. Therefore, you've got a wall around my property, right? If you imagine this. No, Rav says a single property you can carry everywhere. Multiple properties, you can't carry more than 4 amas. So Gemara says, Rav, I can understand. What's the svara of Rav? When you've got multiple properties and one rooftop, you don't know where the roof stops. You can't see any mechitzas. I'm carrying over my roof to over your roof, which is forbidden. Now, Sheikh, I've only got one property. We say good asik on the outside, on the perimeter, you could say good asik, and therefore I've got a wall around. So the Gemara says, the Shmuel is kasha, the Shmuel himself is a kasha. I said, well, that's not true. We're discussing a case where one rooftop is bigger than Beis Hosai. Now, stretching your brains a really long time. Tonight there's a fair from Dilshu on 30 daf. If you get over 90%, over 95%, you get £90. Over 80%, and you get £75 or something, 85%. It's a good way of making your money. So you can go there, it's from daf nun base to daf pay base. So now, stretch your mind back. I tell you now, yes. I tell you now. Okay.
Yeah, because you're just going to get now. How long have we got? How long have we got to the test?
It's finished at 10 o'clock.
Where is it?
Baseball.
Social distance.
Huh?
So get on the maths question.
Yeah. Sorry, what?
We'll go on the math question. Again, what's the halacha? Getting a bit off point of search. What's the halacha about a kalfuf? What's the halacha of kalfuf, which is more than Beis Hosai? It is interesting to remember when we learned it. I always said that it's one of the problems of Eiruvin.
It's in the middle of a town.
Yeah, what do you have to do if you've got a kalfuf more than a side? Surround it, very good. And one more small point.
Oh, I don't
Well,
know.
marvel,
Yeah,
yeah.
It has to be a hukaf ledira. We had it so many times. Hukaf ledira. It has to be surrounded for the sake of living space. So, for example, if you've got a field of wheat in the middle of Manchester, that field has to be closed off. What did Musav left to be so many times? He told me this problem. What did he have a problem? When they'd have building sites which were very big and weren't hukaf ledira, you'd have a problem to make it a hukaf. To make hukaf ledira again. So what happens is like this: if you've got let's look at this rooftop. It's a massive rooftop, more than base of time. How much is more than base of time?
70 by 70. Yeah.
Very good, more than 70 by 70 square meters, 5,000 square meters. Now, is this rooftop? Has it got mechitzas?
No. We said imaginary ones, but not
Well,
real.
Godasik
But
mechitzas.
not real mechitzas. It's not a yeah.
That's the machlokas of Shmuel. And Chaim Sukkah gives it a ganze Landes. Chaim Diskin and Sukkah. That's how interesting swars. Why? What's the machlokas? You would jump to gun but again, let's go slowly. You've got a very big rooftop, more than 70 amps. But around the rooftop, you've got walls. And around the bottom, you've got, we say, good asik mechitzas. Mechitzas go up to the heavens. So the machlokas Rav and Shmuel over here is, do we say it's hukaf ledira or not? What's the machlokas Rav and Shmuel?
When they say good.
No, everything we say good asik.
say.
So what's the machlokas whether you say good asik or hukaf ledira or not? It says an interesting svar. It says like this: is good asik that the walls at the bottom, once we see those walls, we, from an halacha point of view, create new walls for the sake which go up, and those new walls that we created are not hukaf ledira because nobody lives on the roof. Nobody lives on the roof. Or is pshat? Yeah, he's going there for a short time. He doesn't live there. Yeah, we don't live. No, there's no market. He doesn't live there. He doesn't live there going on a regular basis. If he has a market, then he doesn't need anything else. He's got a market. Oh no, that's different. You say that's mechitz. Why need a market? The point is like this again. It's like this: do you say that we alachically create new walls on top, and therefore it's not hukaf ledira because these new walls were never created ledira because at the end of the day nobody lives there? Or if shat is like this, that good asik just says that the walls which are below are stretching all the way. If the walls below are stretching all the way, the walls below, are they hukaf ledira? Of course they are. They're the walls of our house. Imagine this was my house. I only lived till the walls which you can see over here. And imagine this room was more than 70 by 70. And I've got a roof. So what happens is the outer walls of this room are my gudasik. So they are definitely hukaf ledira because I'm living in here. The question is, do we say is gudasik work hukaf ledira? And that's the machlokas Rav and Shmuel. So again, regarding the machlokas Rav and Shmuel earlier, when you've got a number of premises on one roof, what is the yesod machlokas? Right. What's the yesod? That's right. Whether
good asik works to separate the.
Whether good asik works
So
when on the roof
the-
you can't see anything. When you're seeing a flat roof, do you say good asik from inside? What's the yesod machlokas over here? Do you say good asik works for hukaf ledira? More explains inside. Kash l'shvash v'hosam le'avi yesu v'sayim. Hochav yesu v'sayim. Bani mechitzas lemata avidon made for below. Lemala le'avidon. Pava kikaf yesu v'sayim. Shlokaf ledira. Chol kaf yesu v'sayim. Shlokaf ledira. Ein metat bo'el ha'ba'al, but you can only carry 4 amos and not more. And Rashi is the one who explains a bit of what we just explained now. Because the Gemara doesn't explain Rav. The Gemara just says Shmuel. Shmuel says you're not allowed to carry because not hukaf ledira. But what about Rav? The text is Rav holds it is hukaf ledira. Where was it hukaf ledira? Because good ask mechitza. But where was good ask mechitza? Good ask mechitza is the walls of here. That is the shaila. How does good ask mechitza work for hukaf ledira? So we've had two machlokas Rav and Shmuel.
Puts a roof on.
Yes.
That's the idea of the wall stops.
Right. So how does good ask work?
And be below the roof.
No. Good ask works goes upwards. Good ask works upwards.
Yes, if there's a gap between
No.
the
Oh,
wall and the roof,
no.
then you'd say
When you're the outside of a house, if you see a big block of flats, we imagine that the walls outside the block of flats go up all the way to the heavens.
to the roof.
No, not just heavens, forever.
But that's the good.
Forever. Good ask goes forever. Now we're going to have a third machlok, it's a simpler machlok. It's itma. Svina, you've got the ship. Rav Omar Mutter Tatzva Kula, you're allowed to carry everywhere on the ship. V'shmuel Omar Tatzva Ba'ba'am, you're not allowed to carry 4 amos. If you ever go sailing on the Shabbos, and we're talking about a very big ship, more than 2,000, more than 5,000 square meters, more than 70 by 70. So all our yachts over here, do any of you have a yacht which is bigger than, is it more than 5,000 square meters? If it's not more than 5,000, you haven't got a problem.
When we see you in 7 years' time,
Rav Omar Mutter L'Talta B'Kula. 5,000 square meters, 30 meters by 30 meters.
You don't get 30 meters wide, you get 30 meters long.
mine is
Rav Omar Mutter L'Talta B'Kula. Top of Tzadikim base. Rav Omar Mutter L'Talta B'Kula. Top of Tzadikim base. The Ikka Mechitza also. If you think about the shape of a ship, how does it look like? It's got massive walls going up the sides. So says Rav, what's the problem? You've got walls. Oh, the walls stop at the actual deck. It doesn't matter. Good acid mechitza, and they go. They don't go up. No, they don't. No, they don't. Wait, you've been sailing for 20 years. You don't fall off a ship. Why would they have walls? If they have walls, they won't be machlokes and shmur. Oh, that's what says. That's a shmur. Only those people who are scared, and those people who are confident ships. What do you mean? You've got these ships where they have planes shooting off. What are they called? Aircraft carriers. They don't have ratings. No, they don't. So again, Rav says you're allowed to carry because you've got mechitzas. The Shmuel Omar, ein metaltin bola ba'amas. You can only carry them for amos. Mechitzas laviach by basuras. These are not mechitzas as walls. They're just to make sure that the water doesn't sink the ship. Imagine go to somebody who made a machlokas. Shmuel and Rav had a machlokas, and he went up to Shmuel and said, "Halacha like you, or halacha is like Rav." Halacha is like Rav. Rashi says what he meant to say, halacha is like Rav, is I'm choiza. I've changed my mind.
Shmuel said this.
Yeah, Shmuel said
The halacha is like that.
Shmuel said halacha is like Rav. By Shmuel said halacha is like Rav, what he was trying to say is that I've changed my mind. I've changed my mind, and therefore we passed like Rav. Omar, he said, I've changed my mind, we passed like Rav. I retract what I said. Omar Gidol Mavchir by Yosef, Umoide Rav Shim Kofar Pio Shemetaltim Bola Ba'abams. If you turn the ship upside down, so again, you've got massive walls, but it's upside down, and you want to now carry on the bottom of the ship, I think it's called the hull. No, not all hulls go to a peak. Some of them go to a flat. So you've got a flat hull. That's right. Are you allowed to carry on the hull? What would you say? Mutter asa? Why?
Same thing. The walls aren't there to be here. It's there to
Oh, here's even worse. The one says why. Why did you turn it upside down? If the intention was that you want to live inside the boat, meaning you took a big ship, turned it upside down, and then you made the entrance, and now you've got somewhere to live. So then would you be allowed to carry on the roof? Yes, because it's the same as a private individual house you're allowed to carry. So what happens was you want to tar it. So it's very hard to tar a ship. How would you get to the hull? So you turn it upside down. So now, the purpose of these walls are for nobody can live underneath it, and nobody lives on top of it. So therefore, these are not mechitzas. Since they're not mechitzas, you're not allowed to carry on the top of it. Okay, a ship. Right, the ship is better.
No, a boat is different from ship and boat.
Well, what's the difference?
A boat's a small thing that you're going into.
Yeah.
Ship, you can't turn it upside down.
Usually they
Yes, you
do.
can.
They don't. They put it
No,
on
they
the
build it facing up. Actually, they build it flat. Especially in the old days, they wouldn't turn it upside down.
Okay, that's a technical question. I don't know.
No, I'm saying
The Mars
technical
clear
difference.
The Gemara said to us now.
Not a ship. That's what I'm saying. There's a technical difference in a boat.
It has to be quite big. If it's not big, what's the shy?
Yeah, it won't be big.
But Rashi
That's the Leo's limit. If you turn it over.
You're not talking about a cruise ship.
Floyd
are
out
you?
in Salford then.
That's right.
Floyd out in Salford. Local harbour.
Right, can we carry on?
Yes, Ravashi Masnilo Asfino. Ravashi, if you remember, we had Machlokas Rav and Shmuel, and somebody came to Shmuel and asked him, the halacha is like who? And Shmuel told him the halacha is like Rav. Ravashi had a tradition in Mesiris was that this whole Machlokas Rav and Shmuel was about a boat, and Shmuel was chayzer about the boat. Rav Acha Beit Rava, I'm sorry, my voice is straight like mad. I've got to drink. So, this is the very important halacha. It's a picture which already put up. Oh, I know, but here's what the word talks about. The Tov Lamed Ches. Picture achsadra bebika. A chuppah. Oh, very good. A chuppah. What would you say? Can you carry underneath a chuppah?
Yes.
Depends how big it
Where?
is.
Where's the mechitzas?
Goes down, no?
We say it's good out. No, what's it?
No.
No, we don't say that on
Wait a second. You haven't got lava. There's no more than 3 tvachim. You haven't got godash and brachas.
Oh, no.
No, you don't have over here Sosa Pesach. Sosa Pesach requires certain. You got pitikva. So now, this is the machlokas. Do we say pitikva yod v'sosim? That means the end.
There's a roof.
That's right.
And the roof is as if it comes down.
Very good. That's the machlokas. Yes, you have to write this down on your fridge. Pitikva yod v'sosim. It's a machlokas. Pitikva yod v'sosim. Now we paska. Do we pass the pitikva yod v'sosim? Yes or not?
Yes.
Shai is very good. I didn't hear the rest of his sentence because got things. Pitikva yod v'sosim we pass it only as a fourth wall. So if you've got 3, you can use pitikva. So in this picture, would you be allowed to carry underneath?
No.
No. Very good. Oh, only me. Well, says.
How could you carry on?
Why not?
According
to Rav, you can. What's the problem? Underneath that chuppah. Have you seen the picture? If you've got a massive canopy, right? Imagine some chastorah, you've got chassan bereshis, it's got 10,000 guests. What? You've got no walls except for a rooftop. So Rav holds the end of the roof is enough to be considered. The end of the roof is considered pitikot. The end of the tikot, the end of the roof, yod v'sosim blocks down. We picture as if the end of the roof goes down. It says what I say inside. Within 4 hours. We don't say pitikva yod v'sosim, even except if it's that the Gemara doesn't say this, the Rishonim say this, except as an additional roof. You can't use it only pitikva. You can't use pitikva itself. Right, there is a case. I think it's having shmor. The Rishonim pass that is no good except there's another Gemara. I don't remember it's in Shabbos. I didn't in Sukkot, not in Shabbos. Now, according to Rameir, all rooftops have the same status, right? So I'm allowed to carry from my rooftop to your rooftop, etc. A very big rooftop of an individual person. According to Rav, what's the status of that roof? A very big rooftop of one person. Only he can carry. Why can he carry?
Because it's his house. The walls are going
Go up. So it's considered, what is it? What would you call the roof?
It's yachid.
Very good. According to Shmuel, what would it be considered? It's a carpus. Because at the end of the day, it's a carpus which is not took up the deal. The Gemara says, why can't you carry from gag to a chotz? The chotz says what? It's a shusay yochid. The gag is a shusay yochid. So let me carry from the rooftop to a shusay to the chotz. Oh, so Rashi says because they will see later there were mere holes that certain different kinds we do allow, even though we don't allow from gag to a carpus. This we do. Answers well. Gzir b'shut av Yitzchak b'avdimi. The gzir of Yitzchak b'avdimi. What was the gzir of Yitzchak b'avdimi? Does anybody remember?
To stop you thinking you can carry from the just
No. What was gzir of Yitzchak b'avdimi? A very big chumrah of Yitzchak b'avdimi. He said it's a huge chumrah. Right. He holds anywhere which is higher than 10 tefachim, you're not allowed to carry, even in the Rishus HaYochid. Why? Because if you're walking on the Rishus HaRabim and you see something which is more than 10 tefachim high, what will you end up doing? You'll carry from Rishus HaRabim onto that platform, and you won't realize that the platform is Rishus HaYochid. This is something we should keep. It's a very, very chiddush. If you're walking in the middle of the M62 and there's a massive rock there, big rock, 10 tvachim by 4 by 4, an electricity box, a post box. What's the status of that box? It's a Rishus Yochid. Because it's 10 by 4, even though it doesn't belong to any private individual. This rock, you walk in the Peak District, it's a rock which never belonged to anybody ever. So Rishus Yochid. So because of that, he said you're never allowed to carry, if you've got a garden, in the middle of your garden, you've got a nice monument. Are you allowed to carry from your garden to a monument? No. So therefore, you're not allowed to carry from a roof to a chotza either. It says, well, Shmuel. According to Shmuel, what's the status of the roof? It's a kaf. I live with but entitled to gag the kaf. Maybe the roof will break down a bit. And it won't be based on Saim. It will be less than based on Saim. If it's less than based on Saim, it doesn't have the lochas of kaf. And then you'll be allowed to, then you won't be allowed to carry. It says, well, you should never be allowed to carry from any kaf. In case the kaf of walls fall down, you make it smaller, and now it's less than base of Saim to a more than base of Saim, so it should be also. When the roof becomes smaller, people do not notice as much. When the kaf becomes shrinks, everybody knows the kaf shrinks, and therefore what will happen is people will end up knowing they're not allowed to carry from one kaf to the next, but from one rooftop to the kaf is forbidden. I'm not sure whether we should carry on. Let's carry on a bit more, even though we'll have to go in a few lines next for more. When you medayik our Mishnah, when you learn our Mishnah correctly, the Divir Amir, Gagin Rishus La'atzmon, all rooftops have their own Rishus. Chatzeres Rishus La'atzmon, all Chatzeres have Rishus La'atzmon, Tzadik Aleph Amud Aleph, Kafifus Rishus La'atzmon. So therefore, if you've got a kalfaf and I've got a kalfaf, am I allowed to carry from one to the next? According to Amir, yes. Again, Gagos Rishus La'atzmon, all rooftops have their Rishus. All Chatzeres have their Rishus. Because of kaf to a chotzer, but all the Gagos in Manchester can be carried from one to the next. The Divrei Chachamim Gagin v'Chatzeres Rishus Achas, a gag to a chotzer is one Rishus, Kalfifus Rishus Achas. Rashi says that he got this as a Mesiris because he can't prove it from our Mishnah. That according to Chachamim, you're allowed to carry from one gag to a chotzer, but not from a kalfaf to a chotzer, or not from a gag to a kalf. The Divrei Rab Shimon Kulam Rishus Achas saying that all one Rishus. So you're allowed to carry from all gagas to chatzeres, from all chatzeres to kalfa. Says what? Tanya Kavosit to Rav, Tanya Kavosit to Yehuda. Tanya Kavosit to Rav. What did Rav say that you're allowed to carry across the rooftop? Not allowed to go up from a roof to a chotzer. The if they were in the chotzer when Shabbos came in, you're allowed to continue carrying them in the chotzer. The gagin mutar tatam v'gagin. You're allowed to carry any roof to any roof as long as no roof is higher than 10 or lower than 10. You're only allowed to carry 4 and not more. So you see that you're only allowed to carry 4 hours and not more, even on an individual rooftop. So that's Shittas Chachamim. So again, according to the Chachamim, somebody asked me this question. Somebody told me he's been learning Eiruvin for years. I asked him this question. He told me he didn't have an answer. That this whole Gemara Be'emes is a bit difficult. And the fact that we pass neck of Shimon's, why did the Gemara go in such a riches? Did you ask the child? That why do we even need to know Shittas Chachamim? We don't pass neck them. I know. It's just a bit no, but usually there's a nafkamina in other cases. But here we pass them according to the Chachamim. By the way, we should be clear. You're not allowed to carry from one roof to another roof. That's the advice to finish off. You're not allowed to carry from one roof to another. I just want to finish off to the 2 doors because I don't like to stop in the middle of the topic. Tanya Kavostab, Yod Omar Rebbe. We learned Shimon about Shimon into Kra was a place. When you're marrying Shimon Valuntis with Gag the Gag, and what happened was they wanted to go for a bath on Shabbos. The Rishonim asked the question, not Rashi, the other Rishonim, how can you go for a bath on Shabbos? You're not allowed to wash yourself with hot water. They give 2 answers. Either they would go to very cold water, which is permitted, even though we actually have a minhag mice, even to have a cold bath. There's a mishmur that says the chatzchila one shouldn't, but mice, alternatively, they used chamei teveria, which is permitted. Anyway, he wants to have a bath. The problem was, you can't go and leave your towel and your soap there, or your oil there on Friday afternoon, because when you come to Shabbos morning, you'll find your towel and your oil gone. So what should you do? So you have to carry it. Now, how can you carry it? There's no Eruv. So what's your solution? Well, oil, how you tap them? So what's the solution? You come up with this pashta solution.
Pre-what? Pre-soak yourself.
What's a proper solution? A lachic solution. We pass like of Shimon. What's up Shimon say? Go from roof to chotzer, from chotzer to kaf, from kaf to roof, from roof to another roof, and then you'll get there. No, because not always is there chatzeros all the way. Not going to be chatzeros consecutive all the way from your house to the thing.
Not always be,
Let's do it again. I'm going to do it. So the shimon to carry my shimon don't is me gag the chotz kaf kaf. Ach kaf. Ach actually magides la mayon shinu ichsim boy. So you see, like shimon, you went from place to place. Oh my beauty, my shas is a kind of like nowadays with COVID. You have to get a sefer Torah. How are you going to carry the sefer Torah from one place to the next? So you see like who's this like? Both of these stories from Shimon. So you see that we passed the life from Shimon. You can't prove it.
this is what Yehuda
Because
is
it's
saying,
the
he doesn't use your argument.
He usually argues with Shimon. He's supporting the Svav of Shimon. Okay, we got a bit further than expected. Once again, there you go. The very, very good Vach. It's a good way to start the week from Shana. Anyway, the Maisi should know that in a month's time there'll be another Faher Dilshun. It's What? Thank you. No, I've got plenty of time. No, I haven't. No.
You win.
Win what?